So, welcome back to another episode of Reboot. And my apologies for pushing this live a little bit later than was anticipated. I seem to have caught the lurgy on one of my recent trips. So, apologies for that. Hopefully it won't affect this video too much. I do sound a little bit raspy, but yeah, let's dive into this video. And this video is on double standards, or what I see in terms of double standards across Southeast Asia. Because I think that if you open up any browser, so Google, and you type in Cambodia, I can almost guarantee you what you'll see on your screen. You'll see story after story about scam centres, cybercrime, trafficking, the kind of usual greatest hits. But I live here in Cambodia, and I have done for the last 6 years, surrounded by the most wonderful, generous, kind and compassionate people I could ever have helped to have met. But it's important to admit that scams do exist, and they've caused serious and quite often irreparable damage. But I also do see action taking place. I see police raids, I see scam compounds being shut down, I see very much a government trying to clean things up. And yet Cambodia is still painted very much as the regional villain. What has impressed me, not just in the scam centre dialogue or conversations that are going on online, but also the border narrative, is how Hun Manet has managed these issues with the utmost of professionalism, grounding his narrative in law rather than childish behaviour. He hasn't resorted to playing music across the border. He hasn't resorted to scandal or screaming about things online. And I think that quite often facts speak louder than outrage. And that's why I'll never post emotional or inflammatory content. Because I do believe, like Hun Manet, that facts speak a lot louder than outrage. So let's dig into the subject for this video, because here's the truth that I see, is that Southeast Asia doesn't suffer from a corruption of character. It suffers from a corruption of narrative. Because when you strip away the headlines and look closely, you'll notice something strange. The same behaviours, the same moral contradictions get treated completely differently depending on which country they happen to live in. In one place, it's a scandal, and in the other, it's culture. And that's the subject for this vlog, really, about the same region but different rules. So let's start with the easy target, Cambodia. Pig butchering scams built around fake relationships. People lured into compounds. Victims tricked into investing. And these stories are real, and they're ugly, and they need to be exposed, and they need to be shut down. But here's what rarely gets mentioned, that Cambodia has acted, and it has been acting for a while. There have been coordinated raids, international cooperation, and mass deportations. It's messy, sure, but it's movement, and that, I think, is what matters. But still, the narrative doesn't seem to have shifted, or certainly the reporting of what's going on from across the borders. It's almost as if Cambodia's role as the regional villain is just too convenient to update. The world, I think, loves a simple story, and Cambodia bad sells clicks. But meanwhile, and this is part of the irony, across the border, something far larger, far older, and technically illegal continues to operate with impunity out in the open. So in Thailand, prostitution has been illegal since 1996 under the Prevention and Suppression of Prostitution Act. But if you walk around Nana Plaza, if you walk down Soy Cowboy or Beach Road in Pattaya or Walking Street in Pattaya, you'll see an entire economy built on it, out in plain sight. So here, it's illegal on paper, but indispensable in practice. And from my research, estimates put the adult entertainment industry in Thailand at $6.5 billion US dollars. And that's just what's reported in terms of bar fines, drinks, hotels, and so on. But there's a whole shadow economy that exists below that we'll talk about in a minute. In terms of the numbers, some people put the estimate on sex workers, or Thai media puts the estimate of sex workers at 250,000. Others claim close to 1 million when you take into account the unregistered workers, the freelancers. And yet, within the country, it's not treated as a crisis. It's marketed very much as a part of the reason to visit Thailand. It's wrapped in neon and sold as charm. And that's not an attack on anyone, that's just the reality. And it does matter because this is exactly where the double standard shows itself. Because when exploitation happens online in Cambodia, it's a scandal. But when it happens face to face under neon lights, it's a photo opportunity. So the double standard is we condemn digital manipulation, but we ignore emotional exploitation. We call one corruption and the other culture, but it's the same formula. It's trust, illusion, money, and heartbreak. Different setting, but the same outcome. So let's talk about the emotional economy, the invisible industry built around what no one seems to want to measure. Because across Southeast Asia, there are hundreds of thousands of relationships that exist across borders. Foreign men or women sending money each and every month to partners that they believe they're helping or supporting or loving or building a future with. And whilst it's true that some of these relationships are real, many of them, particularly built within that nightlife environment, are transactional. And some of them, I guess, sit somewhere in between. But collectively, these private payments, these allowances, these gifts, this support, these remittances, represent a shadow economy worth billions. And if this same manipulation happened online, we'd call it pig butchering. But when it happens over in a bar or over a counter or perhaps on a dating app, it's romance. And that for me isn't morality, that's marketing. We love stories that make us feel comfortable, and the online scammer is someone who's very easy to hate. But the girl in the cocktail bar who has the same motivations at heart is easy to romanticize. But both are symptoms of the same economic truth, that loneliness on one side and poverty on the other, with money, I guess, sitting in the middle. So let's just strip away all of this noise, and it always comes back to people. In Cambodia, it's trafficked workers and scam victims losing their savings. In Thailand, it's women trapped in nightlife economies and men overseas sending money that they can't afford. Different faces, same equation. Desperation meets opportunity, and everybody loses something. Southeast Asia's contradictions aren't abstract, they're personal. They're played out in bank accounts, over line or WhatsApp messages, and in border towns. And until the region, I think, can admit that exploitation wears many faces, it'll keep blaming the shadows instead of the systems that allow it to continue. So just to reiterate, this video isn't about attacking countries at all. It's about calling out selective morality, the stories that we choose to amplify and the ones that we choose to ignore. Because Cambodia gets headlines for the scam industry that it's in the process of dismantling, and Thailand gets silence for the industry that it's been built on. But both deserve honesty. Truth isn't offensive, it's just inconvenient. Because if Southeast Asia, I think, wants to be seen as credible, it has to start holding itself to one standard, not six, the same region with different rules. And until that changes, perception will always be the most profitable business of all. Oh, so thank you very much if you've made it all the way to the end of this video. It was quite short today, but I'm full of the lurgy, so I'm going to go and rest a bit more. But if this video made you think differently, please hit like, subscribe, and share your comments. I'd love to know if you think that Southeast Asia applies different moral standards to itself, or do we just tell the stories that sell the best? So let's talk about it. And I very much enjoy reading your comments and responding to them in the comments box below. So until next time, thank you, thank you, thank you.